I have 17 agents running on a Mac in my office right now. Not as a demo, not for a video. They've been running 24/7 since the popularity spike of OpenClaw. And here's what nobody building AI infrastructures will tell you. Most of these systems die within weeks. 90% of them. They look incredible in the demo and they fall apart in production. So today I'm going to share with you what the honest field report looks like. What actually happens when you commit to living with autonomous AI every single day. The wins, the failures, and the thing that happened at 3 a.m. that changed how I think about all of this.
Hey, I'm Johnny Nell. I spent years building businesses the old hard way, managing teams, scaling operations, and doing everything manually. Today, everything I built, from automations and no-code infrastructures to fully AI SaaS products, has AI helping in one way or another. Firstly, let me quickly show you this. In South Africa, we call this a braai. I build with AI tools that, in my opinion, anyone can learn to use. My mission is simple: to help creators, entrepreneurs, and business owners get clarity with AI. Let's build smarter together and enjoy this video.
Quick context, I'm not showing you a weekend project I just spun up for a thumbnail. This is my actual business infrastructure, the content research, meeting management, security audits, memory systems, a full content pipeline, all running autonomously on a Mac sitting on my desk. But here's the problem. Right now, the AI agent conversation is stuck in two modes. Mode 1 being hype, meaning agents will replace everyone, the future is here, and mode 2, the dismissal. They're unreliable, brittle, and heavily dependent on hyper supervision or insane technical requirements and experience. Both are wrong. And if you listen to either camp, you'll either overinvest in something that breaks on day 3, or you'll sit on the sidelines while founders, builders, and entrepreneurs who figure this out quietly automate their entire workflows. But here's what should actually concern you. According to LangChain's State of AI Agents report, only 50% of organizations have even gotten agents into production. And of enterprise AI projects overall, 95% fail before they ever reach that stage. So the gap between I set up an agent and I run agents in production is enormous. And almost nobody is talking about what happens inside that gap. And that's what this video is about. Let's quickly look at what we're going to cover in this video. So firstly, we'll start with the architecture. Then we look at what does that look like if the architecture break? How does the self-improvement component help to heal that process? The costs involved and what actually changed in my day-to-day, and the thing nobody is expecting or even really talking about when it comes down to this infrastructure. So let's start with key point number 1. The architecture. When you're looking at the architecture, a very, very important part to take into consideration is ensuring that you understand how this is orchestrated. So what does 17 agents actually look like? Because when most people hear that number, they picture one massive system doing everything. That's the wrong mental model. Think of it more like a small company. You've got a relay agent that handles all your internal communication, a check-in agent that runs daily briefings, an agent that manages your content intelligence, an agent that monitors your YouTube and Twitter, an agent that syncs and pulls meeting transcripts, a security audit agent, a local LLM agent running through Llama for embeddings, and then 7 agents in the content pipeline alone. And alongside that, feedback loop agents. You could see them too as agents, even though I didn't mention them in the 17 agents in the headline. A self-modification system and RAG memory tying it all. So you could be thinking, why separate agents instead of using one big system? And it's the same reason you wouldn't hire one person to do your accounting, your marketing, your security, and your customer support. The answer is isolation. When one agent crashes, and they do crash, it doesn't take down the others. Meta's AI teams reported a 76% decrease in system-wide outages moved to this kind of service-oriented architecture for their agent. And each agent gets to be a specialist instead of a generalist trying to juggle 17 different jobs in one context window. The other thing that makes this work on my Mac, specifically Mac OS, has a built-in process manager called Launch HD. You write a simple configuration file and the operating system itself keep your agents alive. So if one crashes, launch restarts within about 10 seconds automatically. No cloud orchestration, just the operating system doing what it was designed to do. So let's move over to point number 2. And this point is they break. Let me be honest with you. These agents break regularly. And if that surprises you, you haven't run anything in production before. APIs rates can limit you. Context window overflows. An upstream service changes its response format and suddenly your parser is throwing errors at 2 a.m. So here's a stat that should reframe how you think about agent reliability. According to a Composio's 2005 AI agent report, if an agent achieves 85% accuracy on each individual action, which sounds pretty good, right? A workflow that chains 10 of those actions together only succeeds about 20% of the time. 85% per step, 20% end to end. That's the math that kills most agent startups. So the real skill isn't building agents that don't break, it's building agents that recover. Health checks that ping every agent into a schedule and alert you as the user through whatever messaging medium you're utilizing if something is unresponsive. It retries the logic with exponential backoff so a temporary API hiccup doesn't kill a workflow. Or assist with the error boundaries so that one bad response doesn't cascade through the whole infrastructure. And here's something most tutorials won't mention. Integration issues, not LLM failures, are the leading cause of agent crashes. The model is usually fine, it's the plumbing around it. The API calls, the file handling, the state management between the steps. That's where things fall apart and that's where your engineering effort should go to. I built all of this because I had to, not because I planned to. Every recovery system in my stack exists because something failed in production. And as I said, that can't happen again. That's how real systems get built. Not from architecture diagrams, but from alerts that come up at 3 a.m. And by the way, if you want to have a full in-depth resource based on my entire infrastructure that is down in the AI Founders Vault community, the link is down in the description. I do invite you to allow yourself to consider joining and collaborating with other builders around this. So let's move over to point 3, self-improvement. And it's real. It really is. If you know how to set that up correctly, it's gonna save you an immense amount of tokens and you will have a very sufficient infrastructure. This is where it gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. I have agents that review their own performance, a feedback loop that scores output quality, that tracks what worked and suggests improvement. A code review agent that looks at its own code every hour and flags potential issues. So this isn't science fiction. Google DeepMind built Alpha Evolve, a evolve and optimize algorithm. Researchers have published comprehensive surveys mapping out how self-evolving agents modify their own prompts, their own memory, and their own tool usage, and even their own workflow structure. In my system, this shows up in small ways. For example, the content intelligence agent started getting better at predicting which topics would trend. Not because I turned it on, but because the feedback loop kept refining what good looked like based on the actual performance data. And the mechanism chain looks like this. Better recommendations lead to better performance data, a virtuous cycle, but also a cycle you need to watch carefully. Because here's the tension. Autonomous improvement is powerful, but autonomous improvement without guardrails is terrifying. AWS published research specifically warning that multi-agent systems produce emergent behaviors that automated metrics fail to capture. Human in the loop review isn't optional here. It is the difference between an agent that gets smarter and an agent that goes rogue, that goes off the rails in ways that you won't notice it until something breaks publicly, or you perhaps receive a lawsuit of your agent doing something unethically. You don't want to go there. So I review my self-suggested change before it goes live, every single one. It's a non-negotiable. Now, if you're watching this thinking I need this setup, here's the deal. The templates, the prompts, the resources, and the step-by-step workflows is all inside of the AI Founders Vault. The link is down in the description below. So let's look at point number 4, the cost. When we're taking the cost into consideration, people assume this requires serious hardware, server racks, cloud bills, enterprise infrastructures, etc., etc. My entire system runs on my Mac Mini. And according to Jeff Jerling's benchmarks, the M-series chip idles at around 2.6 watts. Under full load, all 17 agents running local LLMs processing embeddings, it peaks around 40 to 48 watts. So a standard light bulb draws around 60 watts. My entire AI infrastructure uses less power than the lamp currently sitting here on my desk. So I run most of my agents through Claude's infrastructure if I need to utilize that, and I use OpenRouter for that. If I need to use Sonnet at $3 per million input tokens, I go for that. Or if I need to use Haiku for lighter tasks at $1 per million input, I also do that. So batch processing cuts off half of that in my setup. To run these 7 agents on a monthly basis is currently around $100 to $200, depending on how heavy the content pipeline was for that month. Now, I've done some modifications. I made it quite hybrid where I don't have to rely fully on API. I don't have to fully rely on subscription. I leverage a lot of local LLMs. That is all part of this resource that's inside of the school community. The link down in the description below where you can find it and see exactly how that's orchestrated. And whether you're using OpenClaw or Claude Code, you can just drop it in there and tell the agent to build something similar. Now, comparing all of this to the alternatives, a full-time virtual assistant runs you, depending on what type of tasks, but could be from $500 to even $3,000 a month offshore. And really, depending on the role, if it's a C-suite executive, could even be much more. So the average company spends around $658 per employee per month on SaaS tools alone. And they're wasting 20 to 30% on that on tools nobody's actually using. So my local embeddings run through Llama, as I mentioned, on Apple Silicon, and that is completely free. There's no cloud embedding API cost associated to that specifically at all. So you basically have a Mac Mini, or if you use a Mac Studio or even your MacBook, that costs less to run than a light bulb. If you run API costs, you can get away with quite a good amount, but free local processing is definitely what I would suggest if that is possible. And also look at Llama's new cloud version as well, where you can leverage everything from there and perhaps install OpenClaw inside of there. They are using NVIDIA's top hardware to drive that, so you won't make a mistake. So as I mentioned, that is the real infrastructure cost of these 17 autonomous agents. Now, depending on the agents and depending on what you build, I cannot guarantee you will be paying the same. It could be much less, it could be much more. That is truly bespoke to your infrastructure. But there are ways to save costs on API, etc. And as mentioned, that is all inside of the resource in the community. So let's look at point number 5. What actually changed in my day-to-day? I'm going to continue to be straight with you because the internet loves extremes. Either AI emplaced my entire 100-person team, or AI is useless hype, or this is just another N8N replica, or whatever the case may be. The truth is more interesting than either. So my morning starts with a briefing that lands before I made my morning coffee. What this means is competitors are monitored overnight, trending topics are flagged, content gaps are identified within specific recommendation, and that alone saves me hours of research I used to do manually with AI every morning. So meetings get auto-transcribed when I have them, and I use platforms like Fathom to do that, and leveraging the API through the agents, and the summaries are extracted and tasks are moved into my project management system. So the action items get pulled out and organized, and I don't take the notes anymore, and I don't have to review the notes. I have a question, I just ask the agent. The content pipeline is the biggest shift because that was the biggest bottleneck. What used to be a full day of work for me, alongside a few VAs, researching the topics, getting the outliers, doing the outline for the video, starting to write the script, QC for the draft, and the list goes on, now runs through a series of agents with me as the decision maker at the key checkpoints. I still approve every outline, but the first draft shows up with my research already done, sources already cited, and a structure already. But I'm going to be straight. In the beginning, it is a frustrating journey. Some days it saves me hours, and some days I spend a few hours debugging a broken pipeline, but once it works, it's extremely helpful. MIT researchers found that exactly this pattern across companies adopting AI, productivity gains alongside new inefficiencies like increased oversight time and correcting AI errors, the net is still massively positive. But anyone telling you it's all upside is trying to sell you something. That is not the case. Another massive mistake I see a lot of new non-technical founders and builders and entrepreneurs are doing was the same thing I did that I wasn't prepared for, and that is emergent behavior. I didn't program my content intelligence agents to cross-reference competitor upload patterns across weeks of data. I asked it to monitor uploads and flag relevant content. But over time, as it accumulated content through the memory system, it started connecting the dots. This creator posted 3 videos about MCP service in 2 weeks, possible series. Their commitment sentiment shifted negative on the last one. There may be a gap here. I didn't ask for that analysis. It emerged from the intersection of the accumulated data and broad monitoring instruction. AWS flagged this exact phenomenon. Multi-agent systems producing behaviors that require entirely new evaluation approaches because standard metrics won't catch them. You need to assess tool selection accuracy, multi-step reasoning coherence, and memory retrieval efficiency. Traditional benchmarks don't cover this. And this is the moment that changes your relationship with these systems. At some point, you stop managing tools and start managing an agentic team. You're not writing prompts anymore, you're setting goals, reviewing the output, and course correcting where something drifts. That mental shift from tool operator to team lead changes everything about how you build with AI. And I believe most people aren't ready for it. Not because technology isn't there, but because the mindset isn't. Imagine building a system where every agent gets better every week without you manually tuning everything. Where your morning briefings get more and more relevant over time because the system learned what you actually acted on. And where your content pipeline produces first drafts that needs less editing each month. That's not hypothetical. That is my Tuesday, and it can be yours too. And if you're willing to do the engineering work up front, and if you don't want to, like I said, the resource is inside of the community down below. And if you're building with AI agents or you're thinking about starting, drop a comment down in the description. Tell me how many agents you're currently running. What are you currently building? I want to know where you are. If you're experiencing any problems or have any challenges, I do invite you to share your comments down in the description below. See you in the next one.